Everybody doing this evening? Back again with another video for you guys. And tonight what I have for everyone is my full review of the UNTab 10.1 inch tablet. So, jumping right in, y'all know how the story goes. Usually, when I feel like I got a handle on everything I want to cover for you guys, it's full review time. So starting off, first thing I want to talk about with you guys is the overall build quality and design of the tablet. Now, from a build quality standpoint, I would have to say that the tablet is built and constructed extremely well. There's no rattling or creaking of any kind, and the buttons actually feel very responsive and have a nice tactile and responsive click to them. Let me see if you can hear this. Nice reassuring click to it. Very nice and tactile. Alright, I'm not sure how well y'all can pick that up. But overall, the build quality on this guy is good. From a design standpoint, it's really good as well. Standard tablet design here with your nice beefy bezels. But the bezels aren't a bad thing because you have somewhere to put your hands so you can interact with the tablet. So, beefy bezels, not a bad thing. It is what it is. So, from a build quality and design standpoint, I'd say it's really good. Now, moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys is that display. So, up front, dead center here, we got a 10.1 inch IPS LCD display. And I gotta tell you guys, in day-to-day usage, this display is really good. This is about where I keep it on a daily basis. When I take the guy outdoors, kind of crank it up to a little bit over half here, and then it's good to go. And that display looks really good. When I'm in the house, keep it right about there. So, in terms of display, it's a really good display. Now, for those of you who actually want to see the numbers, let me pull it up here and let me give y'all a little disclaimer here. Now, in terms of the display, I got two conflicting sets of information and I couldn't really find any info online, so I just have to go based on what the apps tell me. So, in CPU X here, it says it's a 720p display, slightly over 720p at 1280 by 800, and it has a screen density of 210. But in CPU Z, it says the same resolution, but it says it has a screen density of 216. So maybe there's an error in the apps, but the screen density should be anywhere from about 210 to 216. And again, couldn't find any information online to give me the apps, the accurate screen density. So it is what it is. But there go the numbers for you guys. But that being said, in terms of the display, again, it is a really good display. Now let's keep it moving. Now let's just talk more about the overall hardware and software in this guy. So, hardware-wise, this guy has 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of onboard storage with microSD card expansion. And you can see here, I pop this tab, that you do have access to 2 standard SIMs. So this ain't micro SIM, this ain't nano SIM, this is your standard fat SIM here, and a microSD card. Okay? So got a bunch of expansion here, and it's really nice. Other hardware things is that on the back here we have a 2 megapixel shooter with flash and don't. And then we have 2 rear firing speakers on the back there. You can see the little grills. Alright, flipping it over. Again, got our 10.1 inch IPS LCD display. Got a front-facing 0.3 megapixel camera, which is again, Internally, we have a MediaTek MTK 6580 quad-core processor and a think it was a Mali 400 GPU. Okay? Now, talking about the software, we are pretty much running a stock build of Android. Let me pull it up. Android 5.1 Lollipop on this guy. And it pretty much is a stock build of Lollipop with a few customizations thrown in. In particular, they added the ability to install apps directly to the microSD card. So there is that. But other than that, it's pretty much a stock build of Android 5.1, which y'all can see right there. Let me let that zoom in a little bit. And let that focus. So you can see 5.1 and the model number here. And just so y'all see, got your little Easter egg here. There you go. And then we got our mini game in here. So that's that. And I know some of you guys may be saying, E, you picked up a tablet running an older version of Android. And yeah, because the thing about tablets are, as long as you know what you're picking up a tablet for, and you know it can do everything that you need it to do, then the Android version doesn't really make a difference. As long as you know you can still load up all the apps you want to use, and you're not going to run into any version restrictions or compatibility problems, then having the latest version of Android on a tablet makes no difference. And Android 5.1 is just fine. And the fact that they built in that ability into the software for me to manually install the apps to the SD card as I'm installing the app, so I don't really have an issue after that point. So yes, it's running an older version of Android, but it's really not a problem. Now, when we talk about the overall daily performance in this guy, I would have to say that it's decent. It's not going to blow you away by any shape of the imagination. And actually, it takes a few minutes to respond. And when you switch between apps and such, there's a noticeable delay. I don't know how well the camera is going to pick it up here, but there's definitely a noticeable delay when you open up apps. You can see it right there. You can see it took just a second or two to open the gallery, so there's a noticeable delay, but it's decent. It's not lightning quick. It's not buttery smooth. There's a slight delay to pretty much everything, but the performance overall is decent. Okay, so from a hardware and software standpoint, the tablet is decent. Now, moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys is the overall Wi-Fi in this guy. Now, Wi-Fi wise, this guy is running Wi-Fi 802.11 BGNN. There's no dual band. There's no AC. All you have here is access to your 2.4 gigahertz band. Now, that is supplemented by the fact that you can put a 3G SIM in this guy. But talking about that, I couldn't actually get any data service bars. I put my SIM in, it registered T-Mobile out the box, and I didn't have to mess with any APNs. But as I was walking around my neighborhood, and as I was driving around to certain local parks and what have you, I really couldn't get any data connection. Okay, and I did configure the APNs, and I still couldn't get any data connection. So in terms of data support, not talking about Wi-Fi, but regular data support, I have to say it's not good. But in terms of using it as a standard tablet, just via Wi-Fi, then I would say it does a pretty good job. Now, let me max out the speakers as we get ready to do a Wi-Fi test here. I want to leave it on vibrate so y'all don't get distracted by any notifications, and I don't get distracted as well. But now let's pull up a nice little YouTube video here, and this will also double as a speaker test here. So it's already set to max volume. I'm going to show you in a minute, but enjoy, guys. So I'm gonna let this play. We're gonna scrub through, and I'm gonna tell y'all how I feel about the speakers. Enjoy, guys. Alright, guys, so as y'all can see, when it comes to overall Wi-Fi performance, the Wi-Fi on here is actually pretty good. Now, that being said, when we talk about the overall speaker performance on this guy, I have to say that overall, the speakers are good. They get very loud, crisp, and clear, but I did notice that they're lacking bass and they're lacking a little bit of punch. But the fact that they don't distort and they stay crisp and clear throughout, even though the fact that they're lacking bass, I have to say that they're still good. Not the best, but good. Now, moving on, the next thing I want to talk about with you guys now is the Bluetooth in this guy. Now, Bluetooth wise, didn't really look up the supported Bluetooth on this guy. But as long as it supports Bluetooth, you guys know most of the Bluetooth technology is backwards compatible. And I got to tell you guys that I had no issues with the Bluetooth on this guy. No issues whatsoever. And I actually was able to connect up some of my favorite headphones and earbuds without problems. So all in all, the Bluetooth on this guy is really, really good, as it tries to search for my headphones that I have turned off at the moment. So if you got a lot of Bluetooth accessories, or you picking this guy up to watch media and you don't really want to disturb anybody, got yourself a nice little Bluetooth headset, then you're going to be good to go. So the Bluetooth on this guy is actually pretty good. Now, moving on, let's talk about the GPS in this guy. Now, from a GPS standpoint, I have to say that the GPS on here is it's okay. It's okay. It gets the job done. Now, I say that because, again, I could not establish a data connection, but one of the ways that I did test the GPS was if you download Google Maps and you download your offline maps, then as long as you turn on the GPS on your device, you can still use it to navigate. So that's one of the ways I got around not being able to establish a data connection. And using the GPS that way, I had no issues. Now, it did take an extra second or two using the GPS that way to, you know how you turn off course and it reroutes. That did take an extra second or two, and I could see from the GPS test here that it actually locked on. It took about 3 to 5 seconds to lock on, and you can see the GPS strength on this guy wasn't really good. But in terms of GPS, I have to say that the GPS was okay. Alright? So, if you're thinking about picking up one of these big tablets here with data connection and using it, you know, installing it in your car, doing a custom install, so then you have this big beautiful display to interact, and you have like an Android tablet built in, it'll still work. Just remember to download the maps first and just leave the GPS on this guy. Or if you're going to try and use the data connection, please check your 3G coverage for your area and make sure you have good 3G coverage. Because in my particular area, again, I wasn't able to establish 3G service. It recognized my SIM. All the APNs were correct. I did the APNs for LTE. I did the APNs for 3G. Everything was in there, but I still couldn't establish bars for service. I could still make emergency phone calls, and it came up with T-Mobile, but I couldn't establish bars for service. That's why I had to test the GPS that way, just using the GPS on board and downloading the maps. So there is that. Okay? Now, up next thing I want to talk about with you guys, or I would talk about you guys, is the cameras. And really, guys, these cameras are so bad, I would just say don't. Just pretend that there's no cameras here. There's no cameras on the front, and there's no cameras on the back. Images were extremely pixelated, and not even the best lighting conditions could help these cameras. So just pretend that there's no cameras. So if you were hoping that you'd pick up a nice big tablet here like this one and have a decent camera, decent enough to do conference calls and take the occasional selfie for like Instagram or Facebook, nah, you're not gonna be able to do that on this one. Just don't do it. Pretend they're not there. Now, let's keep it moving. Up next, this is where I would talk about the games in this guide. And pretty much, I tested my standard array of games, and honestly, I could tell you guys, the only thing that's going to run on here is the light casual games. So when I say light casual, I mean games like Subway Surfer, gonna run without a problem. Fruit Ninja, gonna run without a problem. Now, when you start getting up into your more graphically intensive games like Asphalt 8, then you're gonna see some hiccups, some stutters. You start trying to load up Modern Combat, you're gonna see some hiccups, some stutters. Anything graphic intensive, Mortal Kombat, hiccups, stutters. But if you stick to your light games, Temple Run, Fruit Ninja, Subway Surfers, light stuff, Crossy Road, shouldn't have any problems. Alright? So that's the game coverage on this guy. Next, now I just want to talk about the benchmarks with you guys, and we're going to keep it moving. So, in terms of benchmarks, guys, this one is probably going to turn some heads for the wrong reasons. Because the benchmark numbers on this guy are extremely low. Alright? Extremely low. So you can see we got our 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited test here, and it scored a 2,885. Let's see, and 2.2 benchmark, it scored a 19,735. I did get it to run the Disco Mark multitasking benchmark, and it ran through, but man, guys, it took forever. And for those of you who don't know, the Disco Mark multitasking benchmark is just a way for you to load up your favorite apps and then cycle through them, and it's going to spit out an average time that it took your device to cycle through all of those apps you selected. And you guys can see this guy scored a 277.742. So this guy took an extremely long time to cycle through all of my daily apps. And guys, as I was running this test, I was noticing a bunch of app refreshes. And keep in mind, guys, this guy only has 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of storage. And that MTK processor is a little old to the teeth now. So that may have been a contributing factor. And the fact that it's trying to push all that on this 10.1 inch display, yeah. So in terms of multitasking, I would probably recommend that you guys stick to anywhere from about 3 to 4 open apps at a time. You really don't want to go past that. Otherwise, you may run into a lot of hiccups and a lot of slowdown. So, keeping it moving. In terms of Geekbench here, you can see we scored a 374 on the single core and a 1020 on the multi-core. That was the GPS test. And you can see this is the Vlemo benchmark. This is the metal test on Vlemo. And it scored a 591, which, as you can see, clearly puts it at the bottom of the pack. Then, as we swipe through, this is the Volimo multi-core test, and it scored a 1010, again, putting it at the bottom of the pack, as you can see there. So, that pretty much does it for the benchmark. Now, I couldn't get Quadrant to run on this guy. It kept crashing out. It wouldn't run correctly. So, there is that. Alright, so that's the benchmarks. Now, up next, I just want to talk to you guys about the overall battery life in this guy. Now, in terms of battery, this guy has a 4500 milliamp hour battery in it, and I keep that in mind. You also have a 720p 10.1 inch display. That plus your usage patterns will pretty much tell you how much battery life you're looking at getting. So if you keep your Bluetooth on all the time, you keep your Wi-Fi on all the time, you keep your brightness turned up to max, you're going to get less battery life out of this guy here. Now, in terms of battery life with my particular testing, y'all know I got a light, a medium, and a heavy, and I'm pretty much a heavy user. In terms of heavy usage, I found that I'm easily able to get anywhere from about 6 to 8 hours of screen on time. Alright, and this is pretty consistent. So you can see I ran through my 3 to 4 discharge recharge cycles, because you want to do that for all new devices, so you properly condition your battery so you get the best performance. And then as I started going through my review process here, let me get to it, ran it down to 10%, and you can see this was a heavy usage day. Screen was on 57% of the time, and I still got 7 hours and 6 minutes of screen on time. Again, ran it down to close to 10% again. This was a little bit lighter, got 39% screen on time, and still got 7 hours and almost 7.5 hours almost. Alright, now keeping it moving, this was a little bit heavier day, ran it down to 10% again, and I got 8 hours, a little bit over 8 hours of screen on time, as you can see there. And this was pretty consistent, so ran it down to 15%, screen was on 45% of the time, got a little bit over 6 hours, and again 15%, a little bit over 6 hours, almost 7 hours there. Again, now this is ampere. This is how I measure the charging rates coming off of the charger. And this is how I could tell y'all that this guy does not support quick charge in any fashion. Because whether I was using one of my turbochargers, whether I was using one of my rapid chargers, whether I was using the standard charger that came out the box, I was pretty much pulling down this charging rate between 1170 milliamps and about 1300 milliamps. So that's pretty much a standard charging rate there. So there's no fast charging in this guy of any kind, no type of rapid charging, so on and so forth. And you know, that's a nice way to segue into the charge times. Now, in terms of overall charge times, guys, this one is going to take a while to charge. If you run this guy down to dead, it's going to take you, let's see, I have one here. Where is it at? Yeah, right about here. Okay, if you run this guy down to dead, it's going to take you anywhere from about 6 to 10 hours to reach a full charge. Keep in mind, I had to run it down to dead to properly condition the battery because I had to do my 3 to 4 discharge recharge cycles. So if you're consistently running this guy down to dead, it's going to take a minute to get it back up to full charge. That being said, if you're conservative and you consistently make an effort to put it on the charge at some decent times, you're going to get some decent charge times. Still not great, but you know, it's better than 10 hours. So in particular, when I ran it down to 20%, it still took 20% to 100, took a little bit over 4 hours there. When I ran it down to 10%, it took about 4 hours as well. Okay, and when I ran it down to 15% here, took roughly the same. This one I forgot to turn off all my background processes. That's why it took a little bit longer, but it's still gonna take anywhere from about 3.5 hours to 4.5 hours to reach a full charge. So this guy's gonna take a long time to charge. Now, this is also where I want to let you guys know, if you make a concerted effort to turn off the background processes before you plug this guy onto the charger, you'll get some better charge time. So you can see this one from 7% to 100 took about 3 hours and 45 minutes. Now I had the screen brightness turned down all the way. I had the data turned off. I had the Wi-Fi turned off. I had the GPS turned off, and I just let it charge, and it charged a little bit faster. So if you run this guy down and you make a concerted effort to turn all that stuff off before you plug it in, you're going to get a little bit better charge times there. So that's that. But on average, it's going to take you anywhere from about 3.5 to 4.5 hours to reach a full charge. And if you run it down to dead, then it's going to take you about 4 to 6 hours to get back up to full. All right. So that pretty much does it for the battery life and the overall charge times. Now, guys, we have reached the end of the video, and this is where I talk about the price and give you guys my final thoughts or a recommendation or two. So I picked this guy up via Amazon, and after taxes, I paid about roughly $90. And if you guys are wondering about shipping and handling, I do have Amazon Prime, so I got the free 2-day Amazon Prime shipping, and this guy actually came extremely quickly. So kudos YunTab and kudos Amazon. Now, you guys are probably wondering, can I recommend that you pick this guy up for the $90? And I'd have to say yes and no. Now, let me explain yes. If you have a specific reason for picking up a tablet, in my case, it was for media consumption. I wanted to be able to watch my TV shows and my movies on a nice big screen. So, you know, having this guy in the bed, it's got a nice, big, beautiful display. The speakers are actually pretty good. And, you know, this is a joy to use in the bed. Now, it's a little heavy. Now, putting that aside, if you want to use this guy for anything other than media consumption or multimedia or social media, then I would have to say no, you probably want to look elsewhere, okay? Because you're not going to be able to, switch back and forth between a lot of social media tabs, checking Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. It's going to lag up a little bit. So if you want something that you could use as a workhorse or a laptop, desktop replacement, then this ain't the guy. If you want something that you could use just to consume media, TV shows, movies, so on and so forth, have a big display with some decent speakers, some good speakers, then this is the guy for you. So yes, if you're picking it up for media consumption. No, if you're looking for an all-around workhorse. If you're looking for an all-around workhorse, you got to keep looking. And I got some more stuff coming in that I'm looking at picking up for you guys. So we may just find that all-around workhorse for you guys at a really good price. Now, that pretty much brings an end to the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please help your boy out and give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. If you want to see more raw, uncut content like this, please be sure to hit the subscribe button down below and click off the notification bell icon right next to it so you get notified when I post new videos. As always, if this video did pique your interest and you're really considering picking this guy up, all links to where to pick this guy up at some really good prices will be located down in the video description, as well as links to the microSD cards that I used in this guy will be located down in the video description as well. Now, that's pretty much it, guys. Again, if y'all know anyone out there looking for some high quality, affordable devices and products at some really great prices, please share with them my channel, because we all deserve the best. I'm doing this for everyone, and we all deserve the best. Got a little tongue-tied. Now, that being said, I hope everyone has a great evening, and I will catch you guys and gals in my next video. Peace, everybody.